what I'd like to do is just address some things that deal with the discipline of painting incessantly and obsessively, and then I'd like to open that up to maybe a conversation. So rather than a written absolute sequential lecture, I'd just like to throw out some ideas and see how you guys would like to think about it. The idea, I mean, the core of this event was theoretically to talk about the idea of daily painting, the concept of daily painting, and it is a very interesting thing. There's a danger involved, and the danger is that if we start thinking in terms of quality as related to time, then it presents some points of trepidation. If you find a way to approach an image in a way that you approach someone you love, a meal you might prepare, having to go out to the garden and doing garden, in other words, just a part of life, then I think that the idea has an awful lot to offer, and it can give you great gifts. Why? Because we tend to have a kind of a daily routine that deals with being able to be alive. We eat, we sleep, we rest, we work, we communicate. And we do all that, and as we do that, we go through a tremendous amount of experiences that are emotional, experiences that are, that might burrow deep inside of us. Things might happen that are very unpleasant, things might happen that are victorious and triumphant, and so all of these various experiences that we go through from the moment that we were born, and possibly before that, to the day we die, all of that stuff gets stored, and it gets stored in the chemistry of our brain, the mystery of whatever chamber our brain holds, whatever chamber of memory and experience our brain holds, and so. What happens when you make art is that you go fishing in there. You go fishing inside this room, and you start to pull up substance that is in essence a recognition and an exploration of those subjective experiences that you store inside of this memory room in our brain. Whether it be painting a rock or a flower or a butterfly or the raft of the Medusa, or making an installation. It doesn't really matter. The point is that we take something that is vaporous and inanimate and non-material, non-physical. A memory, a wish, a desire, a subjective expression. We fish it out of who we are. And we put it down, and the minute we put it down, it becomes something that is tangible, that is digital, that is physical, so that you can now put it in front of you, look at it, and really judge who you are and what you've pulled out of yourself. That includes interpreting something that's in nature, in your own way, or coming up with your own subjective image that might not have, that might never have existed before. As far as style, we all are who we are. The style is automatically there. If you start looking for style, I think you are very fast approaching a trap. Because we are all our own way. I mean, we are all the same. 99% of we're all about this big. We all have a head with eyes and nose and mouth. So we're all the same. But we're all born. We're all going to die. We all know what it feels like to love, to hate, to eat, and all that. To suffer, to be happy, etc. So what makes us different is the wonderful spark of individuality that we tend to, especially in our society, to sort of put up as a monument of achievement, individuality. Well, we are all our own centers of our own universe. So whatever we start to hold as something that is particularly important for us might not be important to anybody else. And because we tend to, of course, expression means that you're expressing something that is particularly yours. you run the risk of boring the hell out of everybody else except yourself. Because who cares? Everybody has their own thing. So you have, to a certain degree, the responsibility to have to do something to this image that reveals and enlightens and adds experience to everybody else, so that we look at good art, we explore it, we experience it, we wonder about it, we dwell into its poetry, we dwell into its mystery, we caress it, we bring it to ourselves, and if it's a good piece, that experience gets incorporated into who we are, and that experience becomes part of the experience that we have since the point we were born up to this point. So what it does is that it literally enriches us. We talked about that in class today, right? So the avenue that leads us to the point where we can confidently go through this wonderful process of creation and of consideration and reconsideration and exploration. The process itself is arduous, and it's filled with all kinds of traps. Are we too commercial? Are we too shallow? Are we not intelligent enough to be able to formally consider what we're doing in a very strict conceptual way? Are we trite? Are we shoveling poop against the tides to a certain degree? and because after all, what we're doing is just covering, like we were talking about a few minutes ago, you're just covering a piece of rag with some mineral and some oil. And that thing doesn't have a light, and it doesn't have motion, and it doesn't have time, and it doesn't have space, and it doesn't have a smell, and it doesn't have a taste. And it shouldn't have a taste, especially if you're working with lead white. So, it's a very esoteric and strange thing. This discipline of just sitting there in front of this white panel with a brush, with a piece of wood in your hand, and you're not talking to anybody. You're not expressing anything except making these very strange flat areas of color. Yet, painting is a discipline that is the thing that is the most wished for in many a survey taken of scientists and actors and all kinds of people, lawyers, corporation executives, CEOs. If you ask them all, what would you really like to do? The vast majority of things chosen is to paint. And that's a fact. Okay. So you look at how many politicians throughout the world, leaders of countries have painted. And I don't want to, go on and but it happens to be the reality. Why? Why is that? So this incredible desire to find out who we are is based on, to even begin to go there, we have to try to understand where do we come from. Because our greatest desire is to figure out where we're going, right? So before you go somewhere, you got to figure out who you are, and before you know who you are, you have to figure out, where do you come from? Who's your mama? And so it's very important to go back into history and to really analyze and study and to gather an understanding as to the people who preceded you that have this wonderful gift that they've given us, the art of the past in every civilization. And in order for all of us to understand, to even begin to understand that art, you need to understand it in context, contextually. And the context is history itself. And that in itself presents as many problems as judging a painting, because history means his story.